And we're going to start with the big movie of the week that very kindly, because we record this on a Thursday evening normally, kindly came out on a Wednesday. So for once we can kind of be ahead of the game. And that is Napoleon. And Napoleon is, of course, Ridley Scott's epic film, which follows the rise and fall of Napoleon Bonaparte in a tumultuous France at the turn of the 19th century. Here's a clip.
What is this costume you have on?
This is my uniform. I led the French victory at Toulon.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
So, as you can see there, it's pretty epic in scope. I'll start with this one, I guess. I saw it yesterday. I went into a screening at the middle of the day at lunchtime, and it was absolutely packed. And I thought, looks like it's going to drag in a really good audience of older people who tend to like a big historical epic. So that was really good. And certainly for me, I thought the battle scenes were wonderfully visceral. If you're a horse lover, you might not like some of the scenes that were shown. But in terms of acting, Joaquin Phoenix, again, absolutely delivers. Is there not a film that this guy just can't deliver 110% to? And if anything, he was rather outacted for me by Vanessa Kirby as Queen Josephine. And the two of them, I thought, sparked off at each other wonderfully in what I think was a deep and complex sort of relationship. One thing which I looked up after seeing the film was that they made an agreement that if when they were acting, there were no holds barred, as it were, and if they felt that there was a need to go somewhere with the action, then they would do it. And there's one point in a dramatic scene, which we won't drop as any spoilers, at a church altar, where Joaquin Phoenix suddenly in the middle of the piece of dialogue slaps Vanessa Kirby hard across the face. And the shock on her face when that happens goes a long way beyond acting. That he really just laid her one across the face during the piece of dialogue. And I mean, I wouldn't normally approve of that sort of thing, because you hear of things happening like Dustin Hoffman doing that to Meryl Streep in Kramer versus Kramer, and there wasn't an agreement in place. But in this case, there was an agreement that said, if we feel it's necessary for the dramatic direction of the film, this is where we're going to go. And they did it. So I thought there was that kind of nice dramatic tension in the film. The only negative for me was that the story, I thought, had quite a few bumpy moments. For example, there were some girls at the end of the film in the scene on St. Helena who were presumably his daughters, but we were never introduced to them during the film at all. I've no idea where they came from, what they were. We knew he had a son, and we knew he had a bastard son, but we didn't know about these girls. So there's obviously going to be a 4-hour version, 4 hours of Ridley Scott's film on Apple TV, and I think probably that one will fill out some of those bumpy bits of pothole in the road in terms of the storytelling. But that was my view. Who else has seen it? Scott, you've not seen it. Andy, what did you make?
You and I, Bob, are going to agree, to disagree. Because you used the word epic several times. I thought, in comparison to some recent films of this ilk we've had, it wasn't that epic. I was bored in between the battle scenes with the relationship between Napoleon and Josephine. I kept thinking, I wish I wasn't watching this tonight, Josephine. Because that line is not in the film. No spoiler, that line is not in the film. I felt that Joaquin Phoenix was not at all stretching his acting muscles. Most of the time he's just standing there looking moody. And I agree with you that the what's her name? Sorry,
Vanessa Kirby
playing Josephine was the star of the show. we've had people on already, haven't we, complaining about the historical accuracy of the film and that Napoleon never did allow his troops to fire at the pyramids, or was he present at the death of Marie Antoinette? So I was bored in between the battle scenes, and if it hadn't been for the battle scenes, I would have been asleep. But every now and again, there was a big explosion that sort of jolted me back to what was happening, and thank God for that. But it was just. I thought it was biopic by the numbers. It was a standard biopic.
Oh, okay.
But I thought there was nothing special about this. I went in hoping that it was going to be special and epic and riveting and exciting and thrilling and revealing. I don't think it was any of those things particularly, compared to stuff that we've seen, other historical epics that we've seen, including Ridley Scott's Gladiator. So I felt that between the battle scenes, there wasn't a lot to keep you interested or hooked. And okay. I didn't care tuppence about the relationship between the two of them because, so they're going to get married and all the rest of it, fall out. But I thought the score was lackluster when it should have been bombastic and military and marching and moving the film forward. I thought the score was very lackluster. I thought the direction, there was nothing special about the direction. When you look at some battle scenes in previous films that we've seen, I didn't think it was that great, Bob. I've got to be honest with you. I thought maybe the 4-hour version will actually iron out some of those problems. But there was very little character development. And as I say, in between the battle scenes, which were good. They were brilliantly staged. But then you expect that anyway, in this day and age. I don't think there was much to stand out about this film, really. I didn't think it was that outstanding from other biopics.
Yeah, I was just looking who did the music, because I must admit the music I did find a little bit. Martin Phipps.
Yeah.
Not a name I know at all.
No.
But yeah, I agree. It needed a good Hans Zimmer score to it.
In fact, I was very surprised, when I looked up before going in who's doing the score, somebody I didn't know. I was assuming it would be somebody like Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
James Newton Howard recently did the score for the Hunger Games, didn't he? For the new Hunger Games. So somebody like that, bringing in a bit of bombacity, a bit of thrill, a bit of danger into the thing. It was just dull.
Right. Well, you got two different views there. Emma, you've seen it. Which side would you go on?
I'm afraid I did not see it because
you didn't see it.
Now I did have a ticket booked for last night, and I was just so exhausted after work, and no one apart from you, Bob, had given me very positive comments on it, and I just went, I'm just going to go to bed early, and I'll watch it at the weekend.
Okay. Well, we're going to be divided then on this one until we'll revisit this one next week in AOB, and Emma and Scott, you can give your views, and we'll adjust the score accordingly. But for this one, I was on an 8, but I actually upped it to a 9 in my review, because when I got to in my review, I do positives and negatives, and in the negatives, apart from that thing about the story being a bit jumpy, I really didn't have any negatives. So I thought, sod it, I'm just going to increase it to a 9. And unusually for a film of this type, the illustrious Mrs. Mann went into it thinking, I'm going to hate this, and she really loved it as well. Good. So that maybe influenced me a little bit in giving it a 9. Andy?
Well, I'm going to be honest, there's half a good film in there. I'm going to give it a 5.
Whoa! 9 and a 5 is a 14. So that gives us a 7 out of 10 overall as the Flickering Dreams score, which for Ridley Scott's Napoleon makes it a very marginal hit. Right. But we'll see what it does at the box office in the next week as well.
It will do well at the box office.
I think it will as well.